Hello and welcome to this deep dive from Westferry Times, Media Matters. I'm Emily Carter, and I'm really glad you could join us today.
Hi, Emily. Yes, we're tackling something quite important, aren't we? These shifts in media ownership regulation.
Absolutely. It could really change the media landscape here in the UK.
Profoundly, I think. It touches upon the news you read, the information you get. So, yeah, it's a vital discussion.
It really is. So, our mission today, yours and mine, is to unpack these new rules. What are they? What could they mean for, well, for the media you consume every day?
And why it matters fundamentally to anyone who wants to stay informed.
Exactly. And to guide us through this, we're very fortunate to have Dr. Jonathan Reeves with us. He's professor of media policy at King's College London. Jonathan, it's great to have you.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to join you and your listeners for this deep dive.
Great. So, Jonathan, let's dive right in. These recent changes, what exactly are we talking about? What's the core change that's causing all this discussion?
Well, the main thing, the headline change, is that new legislation now allows foreign state investors to buy a stake in British newspapers.
Up to a certain limit, right?
Yes, up to 15%. And that's a really significant shift because previously the rules pretty much banned that kind of investment outright.
Okay. So why the change? What's the government aiming for here?
The stated aim is finding a balance. They want to allow foreign capital in, which the industry might need, but without compromising, press independence.
Right. That balance sounds tricky. Was there something specific that triggered this policy shift? It didn't just come out of the blue, I imagine?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
A really big factor was the whole situation with Redbird IMI. That's the investment firm backed by the UAE.
Ah, yes. Their bid for the Telegraph. That stalled, didn't it?
Precisely. The existing ban, the outright ban on foreign state ownership, created this tangle of legal and, well, political problems.
So that specific case kind of forced the government's hand.
It certainly put immense pressure on them. It highlighted the complexities and perhaps the unworkability of a complete ban, leading them to look for a more, shall we say, nuanced approach, even if it comes with risks.
Okay, let's talk about those risks then. For anyone listening, the big question has to be, how might allowing foreign state investment, even limited to 15%, affect the news we actually get? What does it mean for media plurality, having different voices, and maybe most crucially, for journalistic independence?
That's absolutely the core concern. The worry is about influence, potential influence over editorial content, over what gets reported, how it gets reported.
Even with just a minority stake.
Potentially, yes. It might not be about direct orders, don't print this. It could be more subtle.
Like self-censorship, maybe? Or just a general cautiousness.
Exactly. Subtle pressures.
Right.
A feeling that certain topics sensitive to the investor might be, well, best handled carefully or perhaps avoided. Journalistic independence could be eroded, maybe without anyone explicitly saying so.
It's that potential chilling effect. So, are there any checks and balances built into these new rules to try and stop that? What safeguards are there?
Yes, there are provisions. The
Mhm.
legislation includes mechanisms to monitor and review these foreign investments, specifically in media companies.
And Ofcom plays a role.
Critically, Ofcom, the regulator, still has its duty to ensure media plurality, that diversity of news sources. They have the power to investigate.
And intervene.
Yes, they can intervene if they find what they term undue influence. So the safeguards exist on paper.
But the question is how effective they'll be in reality.
That's right. That's what we'll need to watch very closely as this unfolds.
All right, so let's focus a bit more on Ofcom. What exactly is their role now under this new framework? Are their powers changing?
Their fundamental duty doesn't change reviewing ownership rules, promoting plurality. That's still there. But what's new, or rather more explicit, is their task of assessing the impact of these specific foreign state investments.
So they'll be looking directly at this 15% allowance.
Yes. They can analyze whether these investments pose a genuine risk to media independence and then advise the government accordingly.
And I understand Ofcom's been thinking more broadly about media regulation anyway, given how much the digital world has changed things.
Oh, absolutely. They recently finished a major review, and a key theme was adapting regulation for the digital age. They're very conscious of online news, streaming, changing habits.
How people like you get your news now.
Precisely. So this wider perspective definitely informs how they'll approach these specific newspaper ownership rules. It's all connected.
Right. So this isn't just a standalone tweak then. How does this fit into the bigger picture of UK media law right now?
It's definitely part of a much larger process of updating media laws, trying to make them fit for the well, of the 21st century.
You mentioned the Media Act 2024 earlier.
Yes, that's the huge piece of legislation. It's the biggest overhaul in, 20 years? It covers public service broadcasting, digital platforms, video on demand services, loads of things.
So this foreign ownership change is just one component within that massive update.
Exactly. One piece of a much larger regulatory puzzle that's being reshaped.
Looking forward then, what should we, and what should you listening, be keeping an eye on? What are the key developments to watch in the coming months or years?
I think the crucial thing is seeing how these rules work in practice. That's always the test.
Does it achieve that balance the government talked about, attracting investment but protecting independence?
That's the million-dollar question. Can it actually deliver both?
Yeah.
We need to see if investment comes in, who it comes from, and critically, if there are any detectable shifts in editorial lines or coverage.
And how do the media outlets themselves react? And investors?
Yes, their responses will be key.
Yeah.
Media organizations, potential investors, campaigning groups, the public. How everyone reacts and interacts with these new rules will tell us a lot. It's the real-world application we need to monitor.
Jonathan, this has been incredibly helpful. Thank you for breaking down such a complex issue so clearly.
My pleasure, Emily. It's definitely a complex and evolving situation.
So just to recap for everyone listening, we've been diving into the UK's new media ownership rules, specifically the change allowing up to 15% foreign state investment in newspapers.
A move aimed at bringing in capital, but raising, as we discussed, significant questions about independence and plurality.
And highlighting the absolutely crucial oversight role that Ofcom will need to play going forward.
It really throws that tension into sharp relief, doesn't it? The economic needs of the press versus the democratic need for a free, independent media.
How that tension gets resolved or managed under these new rules, that's the story to watch.
Indeed.
And maybe a final thought for you to take away. Think about how these changes, even if they seem technical or distant now, might subtly, over time, influence the news you see, the perspectives you encounter, and ultimately who you trust for information. Something to keep in mind.
Definitely food for thought.
Thank you again, Jonathan. And thank you for joining us for this deep dive on Westferry Times. Media Matters. We'll see you next time.